It is happening at a seminary on a green Swiss hillside, the kind of place where nothing is supposed to happen at all. The date is set, the 1st of July, and 4 men who tonight are still only priests have been told what they will become, and Rome has begged them not to take it. Their names were meant to stay inside the walls. They did not. They are out now, written down, passed from desk to desk, and once a name is spoken aloud, it cannot be unspoken. Before we go deeper, take 1 second. If this matters to you, subscribe and tell us in the comments where you are watching from tonight. Then stay with me, because what is about to unfold has been 40 years in the making. The place is called XIV. It sits in the Swiss Alps, in the canton of Valais, and for half a century it has been the heart of something the Vatican has never been able to absorb and has never been able to destroy. It is the seminary of the Society of St. Pius X. Most Catholics have heard the name in passing. Few know what it carries. To understand the warning, you have to understand the wound, and the wound has a man's face. His name was Marcel Lefebvre, a French archbishop, a missionary in Africa for decades, a man who sat inside the Second Vatican Council in the early 1960s and watched the church he had served his whole life begin to change in ways that frightened him to his core. The Latin Mass, the ancient rite, was set aside for something new. The old certainties softened. Lefebvre believed the church was bleeding from a wound it had given itself, and so in 1970 he founded a society of priests to preserve the old ways. He called it after Pope St. Pius X, the Pope who had fought what he named modernism. For years it was a quarrel, a tense, painful quarrel between Rome and an old archbishop who would not bend. But Lefebvre was aging. He was in his 80s, and he had a problem that no amount of conviction could solve. To ordain priests, to confirm the faithful, to carry his movement into the future, he needed bishops, and he had none who would outlive him. So in the summer of 1988, he made the decision that broke everything. On the 30th of June, 1988, at XIV, the same hillside where the 4 men will kneel this July, Archbishop Lefebvre consecrated 4 of his priests as bishops. He did it without permission from Rome. He did it knowing exactly what Rome would do. Pope John Paul II had pleaded with him. A papal envoy had been sent. The answer was no. The 4 men who knelt before Lefebvre that day were Bernard Fellet, a Swiss priest, young, only 30, Bernard Tissier de Malaret, a Frenchman, Richard Williamson, an Englishman who had once been Anglican, and Alfonso de Galarreta, an Argentine. 4 men, 4 nations, 1 act of defiance. The response from Rome came fast, and it came hard. The decree was signed by Cardinal Bernardin Gantin, the head of the Congregation for Bishops. It declared that Lefebvre and the 4 new bishops had incurred excommunication. Automatic. The heaviest penalty the Church can hand down, the cutting off of a soul from the visible communion of the Church. The next day, Pope John Paul II issued a document, Ecclesia Dei, lamenting what he called a schismatic act. That word, schismatic. Hold on to it, because it is about to return after 38 years, almost word for word. Lefebvre died in 1991, excommunicated, unreconciled, an old man who believed to his last breath that he had saved something. He left behind 4 bishops and a society that refused to disappear. And here is the thing most people misunderstand. The society never claimed to be a new church. It never elected a rival pope. It prayed for the pope by name at every mass. It insisted it was Catholic, fully Catholic, more Catholic than Rome itself. That is what made it so hard to deal with. It was not outside knocking to get in. It was inside, refusing to leave, refusing to obey, and refusing to be silent. A family member who will not sit down at the table and will not walk out the door. Now the years move, and the story does not soften the way you might expect. It hardens, it twists. In 2009, Pope Benedict XVI, a quiet German theologian who loved the old liturgy, did something almost no one expected. He lifted the excommunications of the 4 surviving bishops. He extended his hand. He wanted them home. For a few years it looked as if the long wound might finally close. Talks began. Documents passed back and forth between Rome and the Society. The faithful held their breath. It did not close. The doctrine stood between them like a wall of stone. The Society would not accept the teachings of the Second Vatican Council as Rome demanded. It would not accept the new Mass, the new openness to other religions, the new language of religious liberty. Rome, for its part, would not surrender those teachings to win back a few thousand traditionalists. Lifting the excommunications, it turned out, was not the same thing as reunion. A man can be allowed back inside the gate and still refuse to enter the house. And so the talks died, slowly, the way these things die, without a funeral, without a final word. Each side believed it had offered enough. Each side believed the other had refused. And then, one by one, the 4 men of 1988 began to fall away from the story. Richard Williamson, the Englishman, was expelled from the Society itself in 2012. His own brothers cast him out for refusing the respect and obedience owed to his superiors. He went on alone, consecrating bishops of his own in the shadows, a man outside even the outsiders. He died last year, in 2025. Bernard Tissier de Maleret died in 2024. The way he died carries a strange and terrible weight. He fell. He fell down the stairs of the seminary at Écon, the very house where he had been made a bishop 36 years before. The place that made him is the place that took him. That left 2. Bernard Felay, the Swiss, now in his 60s. Alfonso de Galarreta, the Argentine, also in his 60s. 2 men, the last 2 bishops the Society of St. Pius X has in the entire world. 2 aging men holding up a movement of hundreds of thousands across every continent. And here is the arithmetic that no faith can pray away. A society that depends on bishops to ordain its priests and confirm its faithful had 4. Now it has 2. And those 2 are not young. When they are gone, the society cannot make another priest. It cannot confirm another child. It would, in the cold language of the institution, simply run out. It would dry up and die from the inside slowly, sacrament by sacrament. This is the pressure behind everything that is about to happen. This is why 4 men will kneel at Écon on the 1st of July. Not ambition, survival. The society believes it is choosing between disobedience and extinction, and it has chosen to live. So we come to the present, to the warning, to the names. On the 2nd of February 2026, the Society made it official. It announced that it would consecrate new bishops on the 1st of July, without a mandate from the Pope, without permission from Rome. The man who made the announcement is the one holding the whole crisis in his hands tonight. His name is Davide Pagliarani. He is an Italian, the Superior General of the Society of St. Pius X, elected and re-elected to lead it. A scholar, a careful man, not a wild man, and he has decided that the Society will do again, in 2026, what Lefebvre did in 1988. He has looked at the same cliff edge, and he has chosen to step. Rome moved to stop him. In February, Pagliarani was invited to the Vatican. On the 12th of that month, he sat down with Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, the prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, the most powerful doctrinal office in the Church. The cardinal made an offer: keep talking, continue the dialogue, but suspend the consecrations, stop the clock. Pagliarani went back to his council. He thought. And then, in a letter dated the 18th of February, he refused. He wrote that he welcomed dialogue, but could not accept the condition, because the Society and the Holy See remained divided over the Second Vatican Council and everything that had followed it. "We both know in advance," he had said in substance, "that we cannot agree." The line in the sand was drawn again, in the same place it was drawn in 1988, and so the Vatican delivered the warning. On the 13th of May, 2026, Cardinal Fernandez issued a formal statement. The planned consecrations, he declared, would constitute a schismatic act. There is that word again, schismatic. The same word from Ecclesia Dei, the same word from 1988, reaching across 38 years to land on 4 men who were children when the first wound was made. The Cardinal wrote that the Society does not have the requisite pontifical mandate, and that formal adherence to schism is a grave offense against God, and that it carries excommunication under the law of the Church. Under that law it is clear and it is merciless. A bishop who consecrates another bishop without the Pope's mandate is excommunicated, and the man who receives the consecration, who kneels and accepts it, is excommunicated too. Both ends of the act, the one who gives and the one who takes. It is not a fine, it is not a suspension. Excommunication is the Church declaring that a soul has placed itself outside her communion, barred from the sacraments, cut off from the table. For a Catholic who believes everything the Society believes, there is almost nothing heavier a man can carry, and the 4 priests know exactly what it weighs. That is the strange thing. They are not wandering into this blind. They have studied the law, they have counted the cost, and they have decided the cost is worth paying, which means the 4 men whose names have now surfaced are not walking toward a promotion, they are walking toward a sentence. And here is where the figure of the Pope himself enters, quietly, the way he does everything. Pope Leo XIV was elected on the 8th of May 2025, the first pope of his name in centuries, a man watched closely from his first day for how he would treat the traditionalists who had felt the cold under the Pope before him. And the reports say he has shown them more warmth, more openness, more of an open door than they had known in years. That is what makes this moment so heavy. It is not a hostile pope swinging a sword. It is a pope who, by the accounts that have reached us, asked the Society to reconsider, asked them to wait, to pull back from the edge while the door was still open. The warning carries his authority, but underneath the warning, what is reported and what is feared is something gentler and sadder, a plea. Reconsider. Do not make me do this. And the Society answered him directly. On the 14th of May, the day after the Cardinal's warning, the Society issued what it titled a Declaration of Catholic Faith, addressed not to a cardinal, not to an office, but to Pope Leo XIV himself. In it, Pagliarani reminded the Pope that for more than 50 years, the Society had warned Rome of what it called the errors destroying Catholic faith and morals, and lamented that the only answer it had ever received seemed to be the threat of canonical punishment. It was respectful, it was firm, it did not move an inch. Then, late in May, the last veil came down. The names. For months the world knew that 4 men would be consecrated, but not who they were. The Society held the names close, the way you hold something fragile or something dangerous. And then, around the 26th of May, they came out. Pagliarani himself released them, 4 priests, and tonight you will hear them, because they are no longer a secret, no longer a rumor, no longer 4 shadows behind a seminary wall. The first is Father Pascal Schreiber. He is Swiss. He is 53 years old, the eldest of the 4. For years he has been the rector of the Sacred Heart Seminary in Zeitskofen, in Germany, the man who forms other priests. He was ordained in 1998. The second is Father Michael Goldade. He is American, 45 years old, with roots in North Dakota and Kansas, the heartland. Since 2023, he has led the St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary in Virginia. He was ordained in 2004. If you are watching from the United States tonight, this is your countryman walking toward Icon. The third is Father Michel Poincinet de Sivry. He is French, 42 years old, the superior of the Society's district covering Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. He was ordained in 2008. The fourth and the youngest is Father Marc Hanappier, French again, only 36 years old, a professor at the Society's seminary in Dillwyn, Virginia. He was ordained in 2013, which means he has been a priest for barely more than a decade, and now he is being asked to carry the weight of the entire future of his movement on his shoulders. 2 Frenchmen, a Swiss, and an American. The eldest, 53, the youngest, 36. Teachers and seminary rectors, men who form other men for the altar. Not rebels by temperament, builders. And in just over a month, if nothing changes, each of them will kneel and rise excommunicated. The Society framed even this with a strange courtesy. It said that in a spirit of respect toward the supreme authority of the Universal Church, the files of these 4 priests had been presented to the Holy Father. They sent the names to the Pope, as if asking, as if hoping, and then they announced they would proceed anyway. It is the whole tragedy in a single gesture. We honor you, Holy Father, and we will not obey you. Now sit with what this actually is, because it is easy to drown in the dates and the titles and miss the thing underneath. This is a family that cannot agree on how to survive. On one side, a pope who appears to want them home, who left a door open, who asked them to wait. On the other, a superior general who believes that if he waits, his entire spiritual family will die out for lack of bishops, and who would rather be cut off alive than fade away obedient. Both of them believe they are protecting the Catholic faith. Both of them. That is what makes it a tragedy, and not merely a scandal. There is no villain twirling a mustache here. There are 2 sides that love the same church and cannot live in the same house, and the 4 men in the middle did not start this. They inherited it. Schreiber, Goldade, Poincinet de Sivry, Hanappier. They were born into a church already split by 1988. They grew up inside the fracture. And now the fracture has chosen them to be its bishops, which means they will carry the excommunication of 1988 forward into a new generation, keeping the wound open for another 40 years, maybe longer. That is what the 1st of July really means. Not a ceremony. A decision about whether a 40-year wound finally closes or is passed down like an inheritance to men who were children when it was made. What should it mean for you, watching tonight, alone, with the house quiet around you? It means that unity in the church has never been cheap, and it has never been simple. It means that good men, men who pray, men who love the Mass, men who would die for the faith, can stand on opposite sides of a line, and each be certain they are the faithful one. It means that obedience and conviction are not always the same thing, and that the saints have wept over that gap for 2,000 years. And it means that prayer is not a small thing in a moment like this. Somewhere on a Swiss hillside, 4 men are weighing eternity. A pope in Rome is weighing how far mercy can stretch before it must become discipline. None of them are cartoon figures. All of them will answer to God for what they choose. The oldest instinct of the Church, when she does not know how a story will end, is to fall to her knees. That instinct is still right. The 1st of July is coming. The names are no longer hidden. The warning has been given and answered and given again. 2 old bishops are running out of time, and 4 younger men have agreed to take their place at the cost of being cut off from the very church they believe they are saving. Rome has asked them to stop. They have said, with sorrow and with steel, that they will not. Whatever happens on that hillside, it will not heal quickly. Wounds like this never do. They are made in an afternoon, and they bleed for generations. The wound of 1988 is still open tonight, and on the 1st of July, 4 men are preparing to make sure it stays open a little longer, in the name of a faith they will not let die. Watch the date. remember the names, and pray for all of them, the 4 who kneel, the Pope who pleads, and the wounded church that has carried this for almost 40 years and does not yet know how the story ends.